player will.
Welcome back, Visions fans. Ready Player Will here. Guild raids are here for the week, and these are my top 10 tips to help you improve your scores. And all of these are interrelated, and I have attempted to prioritize these from my number one tip to the last tip, but obviously there's far more that goes into this. This is not about getting the high score in the game, but hopefully will improve your scores by a couple 100,000 points, I would imagine. And so without wasting any time, my absolute number one tip of all things is to go use JB79's cheat sheet. The link for that sheet is in the description of this video. This will tell you 90% of the information of what you need to know related to Guild Wars in terms of the best trainers and damage cap items. And let me just pause real quickly to show what this looks like and how to read this. So this Guild Raid cheat sheet, again, huge props to JB79. This is absolutely his area of expertise. Does have some summary items here about some of the map effects and the damage cap increases. He's got some examples of things that have damage limit up in terms of equipment pieces you don't need to have Trust Dome passives for. He's got the vision cards that have damage limit up. He's got the information about the bosses here, as well as the map to get a better idea of where you should pre-position, what they're weak to, what their agility values are. And then for each element, he has two different pages. The first one here is which units have chaining within their kits, in addition to this bottom row, which shows these incredible vision cards that have multi-hit abilities on them, and just a couple characters that can equip them. These are some of his favorite characters that can use these triple hit or double hit abilities that may not already have them in their kits. So definitely look to use these vision cards if you have them. And the second page here is a summary of all the different kinds of imperils and debuffs that the characters have, as well as what the damage limit up card is, and some really excellent Esper options would be. Now, getting back to this, my second tip, and again, most of this is covered in that cheat sheet, so this should all kind of come together, is understanding turn order here. And you need to know whether or not the boss is weak to either CT up or down, or agility percent down, or whether they're susceptible to slow. Now for the CT down, the thief subjobs on some of these units with the steal time ability are absolutely among the best for killing the enemy turn order. You actually don't want to make your team too fast here, and that's going to go into tip 3 in a second. Just let you know who can do agility percent down or apply slow. This is also on the debuff screen here. This is a nice little quick hit list of units that can apply slow, and those that can apply agility percent down, or even perhaps CT down. Second, but basically the theory behind it is that you want to make your agility values slower than the boss. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but the idea is that you want the boss to move first, and that way you can get your chain to last a little bit longer, and then you can more freely manipulate their agility and CT from there. It's not necessarily about the agility points on your units, so much so as it is how can you manipulate the enemy's CT and their turn rotation. So knowing the difference between what they can be susceptible here is absolutely crucial. It's so important that even the game puts it in the notices of what the boss is weak to. That's how much the developers know how crucial this understanding is, which brings us to tip 3. It's trying to maximize your stats, and primarily through the use of trust stones. And on the right side sets here, you do want to go for attack or magic trust stone sets. This is one of the few areas in the game where these absolutely shine, because you do want to maximize your damage. These are perfect for that. And my general recommendation for the best like 6 trust stone passives are the attack and magic 20%, the defense and spirit pen 10, crit rate, crit damage, both of 10%. The dexterity of 15% should also help your crit rate. And the 6th one is really more of a flex. The damage limit up of 1,000 is my personal favorite, just for general usage, but this is on a lot of different items you might already be equipping. And in that case, just an element attack, but obviously this is more niche to the unit you're using, so this is a little bit harder to use more universally. So universally speaking, my 6 favorites just include the damage limit here at the bottom. Now for tip number 4, in order to maximize your damage, you really need to abuse the chaining damage multipliers here, where you want to prioritize building up chains for hitting your max damage limit cap there. Now, I will say it's probably best to not use your best multi-hit abilities too early. Save them a little bit for later in the fight for when you're already at the damage cap. This is also why you want attack and magic sets instead of the agility sets, because you do want to hit that damage cap as best as you can, and also why you need to know what the boss is weak to, whether it's agility percent, CT, or slow, because knowing how you can manipulate their turn order will help ensure that you can keep your chain uptime so that you can get that max damage over and over and over and over and over. Now, for tip number 5, related to that, the damage limit, there are a lot of ways to amplify this, but the most important thing you can do is make sure you have vision cards that max the damage limit up. And JB does have the comprehensive list here of not only what elements have damage limit up for their respective elements, but also the universal ones, which you should be putting in the sub slot. So absolutely, you should have 2 of them, one in the main slot, one in the sub slot. That will greatly amplify your total damage limit at the end of the day. Obviously, damage limit up on weapons, items, and truststone passives, as we just kind of talked about. Make sure on your units you have leveled up the damage limit nodes. Every unit you can level up to 2,000 damage cap. Make sure you've done that. I know it's easy to forget sometimes, but don't forget to do that. And finally, just prioritizing where possible the bonus damage limit up for each of these groups of bosses. That each boss, different weapon types have disproportionately higher damage limit caps. So for just instance, Aegion and Ultros, your strike units will have an extra 10,000 damage limit cap potential as compared to units like Missile and Magic. So using strike-oriented units or pierce-oriented units is to your benefit in terms of maximizing your damage. You don't need to go mono-pierce or mono-strike. Just know that those characters should get a little bit of an edge for you. Now, for tip number 6, imperil early. And this is going to help you get to that damage limit much quicker. A part of hitting that damage cap is setting up your imperils with element resistance down, weapon type resistance down, unit AoE, defense, and spirit. And if we flip back to JB79's cheat sheet, this is where you really get to see the defense and spirit imperils. These are all the weapon type imperils, the elements. Use this to your advantage. Now, another thing as part of this is to not forget about your summons. Summon abilities typically offer enormous imperils, quite often larger imperils than the one in the character kits. They also provide huge damage buffs by attack and magic percent up, but don't worry about the summon too late in the fight if you're already at the damage cap. The summon should really just be an early fight tool to help you get to the damage cap faster if you aren't already there. There's really no point in using a summon really late in the fight if you're already hitting your damage cap. At that point, that's not going to be maximizing your damage because the summon will not do as much damage as your chain hit will. Now for tip number 8, about buffs. Now guild rate is about maximizing your damage. This is just a caution to not waste too many turns buffing. Obviously, a unit's going to have to buff here or there as they get closer, but really only try to buff as necessary to make sure you have enough AP to do all the abilities you want to do, or to ensure really strategic plays. If you want to haste a unit, a teammate that has a bunch of quad hits, obviously go for it, but that's obviously a little more unique to your strategy. The main takeaway here, though, is don't waste too many turns buffing, because those are turns that you could be hitting damage cap instead. Now for tip number 9, copy your teammates. A lot of people ask, hey, what's the best team to use? I can't tell you the best team to use. There's way too many iterations. It's way too dependent upon what your account has, but your teammates can give you a potential best team. Now, in game, and this is one of the best quality life functions they added a while ago, if you go into a boss here, when you look at the damage ranking button here, this will show you your guildmates, who's got the highest damage so far. If you click into the magnifying glass, you can actually copy their formation here. So if you see a teammate that has a score that you'd like to try to emulate, and you notice that you have a lot of characters, a lot of vision cards, a lot of equipment pieces in common, you can copy the formation and paste it into your own. Now for things that you don't have, if you're missing a character, if you're missing a vision card, it will just come in blank, so you will have to fill that in with things, but it's way easier to fill in a couple items here than to start a team from scratch. So if you just want a quick and easy way to copy a team, absolutely do that. Highly recommend it. Which brings us to tip number 10, mock, mock, mock. In each one of these fights, you can go into trial battle first. This is highly recommended. Even one turn out of place can greatly change your ending damage total, or perhaps move the boss somewhere unoptimal that maybe you can have to miss a turn, miss a chain, miss an imperil, whatever it may be. Make sure, if you really care about your score, to go into the trial battle first to see what works for you, and then to stick with that when you're actually doing the mock battle. Don't go rogue and so all of a sudden try to get creative. Use your creativity in the trial battle and then use it for the final score in the actual battle itself. But those are my top 10 guild raid tips. There's obviously a bunch more here for really going for top scores, but if you're just casually trying to dabble in some of this content, I'm a big fan of guild raid because there's a lot of characters that you be able to use here that you really can't use in auto PvP or really top high-end guild war. So this is a really fun way to use some units that you don't often get to use in a way that offers some different kind of competition with your guild mates or with the game in general to see who can hit the highest scores overall. But that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and I'll talk to y'all later.